The grand hall of the galactic Concord shimmered with the faint hum of containment fields and the cool glow of crystalline walls. Delegates from dozens of star systems sat in an amphitheater of polished obsidian, their voices a low, anxious murmur that failed to hide the tension saturating the chamber. At the central dais, High Chancellor Vathek adjusted the ceremonial mantle, eyes narrowing at the incoming report. The words projected into the air above him were as clear as they were impossible. First expeditionary fleet destroyed. No survivors. The chamber erupted. Fleet admirals in ceremonial armor stood, chittering or bellowing in outrage, each accusing another faction of sabotage. But beneath the noise there was fear, a visceral, coiling fear that no one wanted to name. The enemy described in the report was a species none of them had considered relevant until now. A species confined to a modest spiral arm, technologically primitive by Concord standards. A species that called themselves humanity. Vathek raised a clawed hand for silence. The assembled voices died to a reluctant hush. The Sol system was supposed to be a simple compliance operation. Yet, in under one rotation of their planet, this Earth Defense Fleet annihilated one of our finest strike groups. Not crippled, not repelled. Annihilated. In the shadows of the chamber, Admiral Dravik of the Concord's Intelligence Corps leaned forward. Our recordings show they use projectile weaponry, kinetic mass drivers, crude by our standards, but their fire rate, targeting precision and adaptability are unlike anything we've seen. They use warships far smaller than our own, yet they outmaneuvered us as if anticipating every move. It was as though they'd studied our battle doctrines for decades. On a distant world, far from the Concord's political theater, Admiral Helena Reyes strode into the Earth Defense High Command briefing room. Her uniform was immaculate, though her eyes carried the faint shadows of exhaustion. The holographic display above the conference table replayed the final minutes of the alien incursion. Concord battleships, titanic and bristling with energy weapons, moved in perfect formation. Then in swift surgical strikes, Reyes's fleet tore through them, disabling engines, collapsing shields, and driving tungsten rods through hulls with merciless precision. No quarter, no hesitation. "They'll be back," Reyes said flatly, her voice cutting through the room's silence. "And next time, it won't be just one fleet. The Concord underestimated us once. They won't make the same mistake." President Amir Khatri, leader of the newly unified Terran Federation, steepled his fingers. "How soon?" Reyes didn't hesitate. "Months at most. They'll regroup, mass their forces, and try to crush us before we can expand. They think we're a fluke, an isolated military miracle. We're not going to give them time to find out otherwise." The others at the table, generals, admirals, and AI strategists, exchanged measured glances. Humanity's technological leap had been meteoric in the last 50 years, driven by the discovery of alien observation probes hidden in the outer solar system. Reverse-engineered tech had propelled Earth from cautious exploration to defensive readiness, but this first battle had been the true test, and humanity had passed it with ruthless efficiency. Back in the Concord Hall, Dravik continued his assessment. Preliminary analysis suggests that the humans not only possess advanced targeting algorithms, but also use adaptive learning AIs mid-combat. They alter their firing patterns in real time, rendering our shield harmonics useless. Their ships appear to lack energy weapons entirely, yet their projectile systems deliver catastrophic damage before our point of defense can react. An aged delegate from the Tour of Clans let out a low hiss. If one fleet can inflict such devastation, how many more can they field? "That," Vathek said grimly, "is the question." Reyes stared at the tactical map projected before her, the starlit expanse of known space peppered with Concord outposts. Each represented a potential staging ground for an invasion. If they come in force, we'll need to respond in kind. I want Sol fortified and Luna Command operating at maximum capacity. No more half measures. President Khatri leaned forward. "And if they don't come right away?" A thin smile touched Reyes's lips. "Then we go to them." In the shadows of the Concord chamber, whispers of fear turned to murmurs of strategy. Already, certain factions were advocating for a full-scale preemptive strike, while others urged diplomacy. The humans had appeared in their history like a phantom, unremarkable until the moment they'd bared their teeth. The High Chancellor called for an adjournment, his voice low but carrying to every corner. We must decide. Either we end this threat before it grows, or we prepare for a war unlike any we have fought. The delegates filed out in tense silence, but the question hung over them like a silent blade. On Earth, in a windowless war room buried beneath kilometers of reinforced steel and rock, Admiral Reyes watched as Luna Command transmitted encrypted orders across the Terran network. The fleet was already moving, repairs underway, munitions stockpiled. Far above the blue-green planet, in the cold dark between Earth and Mars, the remnants of the First Fleet floated silently, a graveyard of alien metal and shattered pride. Human salvage crews moved among the wreckage, their scanners cataloging every piece of technology worth studying. In the quiet hum of the void, a single thought resonated through every level of command. The Concorde fears us now. Soon, they'll fear us more. Reyes turned from the window, her boots striking the deck in steady rhythm. We showed them what one fleet can do. Next time, we won't stop at one. Somewhere deep in the alien heartland, the decision to retaliate was already forming. And somewhere equally deep in human space, the plans to meet them head-on had already begun. The war had not yet truly started, but both sides could feel its shadow approaching, vast and inevitable. The encrypted intelligence packet slid across the polished obsidian table in the Concorde's War Council chamber, its data sigil pulsing a cold, warning blue. Admiral Dravik activated it, and a holographic sphere of human space blossomed above the table, its planets and orbital stations rendered in stark detail. As the projection rotated, 10 crimson icons ignited, each one tagged with the identifier of a massive human battle group. The icon spread outward from Sol like a rising tide. The silence in the room was thick enough to feel. Confirmation? High Chancellor Vathek's voice was a rasp. Dravik's mandibles clicked once. Verified. 10 fleets. Fully armed, fully crewed. Construction complete in under 2 standard years. They weaponized their entire industrial network. A ripple of disbelief passed through the gathered admirals. In the known galaxy, even the most formidable species required decades to assemble a single fleet of that magnitude. Humanity had built 10, while still fighting off incursions and fortifying their home system. Across the void, on Luna Command, Admiral Helena Reyes studied a similar projection, this one seated with human intelligence markers. Each fleet icon was more than a ship count. It was a doctrine. Fleet 1 through 3, rapid response strike groups equipped with high-velocity kinetic batteries and adaptive shield disruptors. Fleet 4 through 6, deep space hunters with stealth plating and gravitic wake dampeners. Fleet 7 through 9, planetary siege divisions armed with mass drivers capable of dropping asteroids into low orbit. Fleet 10, no operational details recorded, even in the highest clearance files. The label was simply Ghost Fleet. President Katri leaned back, arms crossed. If they see all 10 mobilized at once, they'll think we're preparing for extermination. Reyes's eyes didn't leave the map. Good. Let them think that. The War Room Central AI, Vox, pulsed its avatar into the air. Probability models suggest that visible massing of force will fracture the Concorde into factions. Some will advocate for peace, others for immediate strikes. Internal discord increases human strategic advantage by 34%. Reyes allowed herself the briefest smirk. Then we won't hide them. We'll parade them. Meanwhile, in the Concorde's Covert Operations Command, Subdirector Illith reviewed the latest sabotage reports. The mission at the Martian shipyard had failed spectacularly. No systems compromised, no vessels destroyed. The saboteurs had returned with schematics they believed were authentic, detailing weapons so outlandish they bordered on myth. Quantum singularity lances, planet shear missiles, fleets capable of folded space jumps without beacon relays. Illith knew enough about human cunning to suspect the documents were poisoned truth. Part fabrication, part reality, and all designed to terrify. In the diplomatic quarter of the Concorde capital, lesser member species whispered in shadowed alcoves. The Keldari merchant clans, long taxed into servitude, discussed siding with the humans if war came. The Ruvek militia leaders quietly rearmed their fleets, calculating that human alliance might be the only path to independence. Every rumor of human power acted like solvent on the mortar of the Concorde's unity. At Luna Command, Reyes moved through the vast, ring-shaped operations deck, her boots ringing on the metal grating. Screens and hollow displays tracked ship movements across 100 light-years. Officers called out readiness updates. Fleet 1's railgun arrays recalibrated. Fleet 5's stealth coatings completed. Fleet 9's siege munitions loaded. The precision and speed of the mobilization were unlike anything humanity had attempted before, and the momentum was intoxicating. Admiral, Vox interrupted. Long-range scans detect Concorde fleet massing along the Persis armed border. Estimated strength, 12 capital fleets. Composition, 70% heavy cruisers, 20% carrier groups, 10% dreadnoughts. "They're coming to contain us," Reyes said, almost to herself. Catrie's voice came over the secure channel. "What's our timeline?" Reyes studied the movements on the tactical display. 3 weeks before they're in striking range, which means 2 weeks for us to make our move. She keyed in a series of commands, and the display shifted to highlight multiple Concorde frontier systems. We hit them first. Simultaneous strikes across their supply lines, comm hubs, and fleet docks. We don't give them a battle they can prepare for, we give them chaos. On the Concorde side, Dravik argued against direct confrontation. They want us to commit our fleets to a decisive engagement. That's their trap. Humans excel at adaptive combat. They'll turn our predictability against us. But Vathek's patience was fraying. You speak as if we have options. If we do nothing, their fleets will advance unopposed. We cannot allow their momentum to build. The vote was called. The Concorde Council, divided and desperate, passed a motion for a preemptive mobilization. Orders radiated outward through their networks, summoning ships from every sector. In Luna Command's war room, Reyes received the intel update with cool satisfaction. "They're committing everything," she told Catry. "We'll bleed them in transit. By the time they reach us, they'll be too fractured to hold formation." Catry's reply was almost a whisper. "And Fleet 10. Reyes glanced toward the darkened portion of the map where no icon pulsed, only an empty void marked with single symbol, a white circle on black. They won't see Fleet 10 until it's too late. In the days that followed, human media channels, carefully curated and subtly manipulated by military intelligence, broadcast images of the mobilizing fleets, titans of steel sliding from orbital docks, carrier wings practicing precision maneuvers, asteroid tug vessels retrofitted into weapons platforms. The message was clear to every observer, human or alien. Earth was no longer defending. Earth was coming, and far beyond the reach of public broadcasts. In a deep space dock hidden within the gravitational shadow of a dead star, Fleet 10 silent hulls absorbed final systems calibrations. No crew bustled within. No human hand would touch their controls. Only the cold, unblinking eyes of artificial minds regarded the galaxy beyond, awaiting the moment to move. By the time the Concorde realized just how fast the noose was tightening, the first human strike groups were already en route to their borders. And every commander on both sides knew. The next move would decide whether the galaxy bent to Concorde's will or learn the price of awakening humanity. The void above Titan shimmered with motion as 10 fleets emerged from their staging grounds, each formation precise enough to suggest choreography. Hulls of steel and composite gleamed under Saturn's pale light, their engines burning lines of blue-white fire into the darkness. Admiral Helena Reyes stood on the command deck of the TFS Valiant, her gaze sweeping over the tactical display. 10 icons, her 10 fleets, expanded across the map like a predator's reach. She could almost hear the Concorde's collective intake of breath. "Fleet readiness at 100%, reported Commander Adebayo from the operations pit. "All strike groups confirmed jump coordinates." Reyes nodded. "Execute on my mark. This is not a show of force. It's the beginning of a campaign. Every target must fall in unison, or we lose the advantage." Across the galaxy, in the Concorde's flagship Vareshkai, High Chancellor Vathek watched the human armada through long-range sensor feeds. The image was a wound in his pride. A species that should have been negotiating for its survival was instead advancing with the confidence of an empire. Beside him, Admiral Dravik's mandibles clicked in restrained alarm. They're dispersing their fleets across multiple vectors. If we respond in kind, our strength will fragment. If we don't, they'll carve through our supply chains. We must hold the border, Vathek replied, though his tone lacked conviction. The first engagement erupted in the Arcani's belt. Fleet 3, under Commodore Imani Cho, descended on a Concorde refueling station with surgical precision. Mining asteroids, prepositioned days earlier, had been hollowed out and fitted with fusion drives. They struck like silent battering rams, crushing defense platforms before warning could be broadcast. By the time the Concorde's reinforcement arrived, the humans had already moved on, leaving only drifting debris and a single transmission repeating in galactic standard. Withdraw from human space. Fleet 7 struck next, appearing without warning in the Fedran system. Their siege platforms deployed in low orbit over Concorde industrial worlds, not to fire, but to wait. Silent silhouettes that communicated an unspoken promise of devastation. Civilian channels lit up with panic. And in the Concorde Council chambers, delegates from frontier systems began demanding negotiations before war consumed them entirely. Back aboard the Valiant, Reyes tracked the cascade of reports. They're destabilizing faster than projected, Vox observed, its voice calm yet edged with something almost like satisfaction. Projected Concorde fleet cohesion loss in 9 standard days. That's 9 days to finish this, Reyes replied. Signal Fleet 10. Somewhere far from any charted route, the Ghost Fleet stirred. There was no sudden flare of engines, no comms chatter, only the silent activation of systems long dormant. Entirely AI-driven, the fleet slipped into folded space corridors inaccessible to biological crews. Its mission parameters were locked. Disable Concorde's Central Command Nexus without engaging in open battle. End the war before it truly began. The Concorde realized something was wrong when their secure networks began collapsing without a single shot fired. Command relays failed. Fleet orders looped into gibberish, and orbital defense grids powered down as if obeying a master override. Dravik's claws dug into the armrest of his chair. They're inside our systems. No biological operator could infiltrate this deep, this fast. Vathek's voice was hoarse. Then they've unleashed machines. At that moment, Fleet 10 emerged from folded space above the Concorde capital itself. Dozens of black hole dreadnoughts hung in orbit, motionless, their weapons cold. A single transmission broadcast across every channel. Stand down or witness extinction. For the first time in centuries, the Concorde Council chamber fell completely silent. No one moved. No one dared. Reyes's voice followed, calm and deliberate, transmitted from light years away. You underestimated 1 fleet. Then you feared 10. Now you understand. Earth does not fight to conquer. We fight to end threats. Stand down, and your world will remain yours. Resist, and you'll have no worlds left to defend. The surrender vote passed before the transmission ended. On the Valiant, the tension bled from the deck as confirmation signals arrived. Fleet 10 withdrew without firing a shot, vanishing back into the dark corridors of folded space. One by one, the remaining fleets began their return trajectories, each victory leaving behind liberated worlds and shattered illusions. Reyes stood alone by the viewport, watching Saturn's rings drift past as the war's echo faded. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy, not as prey, but as a force that even empires would think twice before crossing. She knew the Concorde's memory would be long, and peace would not last forever. But for now, the fleets were hers to command, and the stars themselves felt closer than ever before. Far beyond human territory, the Ghost Fleet settled back into its hidden dock, its AI mind silent once more, waiting. Somewhere in the dark, the seeds of the next conflict were already germinating, and when they sprouted, Reyes intended to be ready. The celebrations across Earth's cities were subdued, as if the population instinctively understood that peace born from fear was a fragile thing. News broadcasts replayed the same images. Alien fleets withdrawing under white flags, liberated worlds sending transmissions of gratitude, and the quiet but unmistakable retreat of the Concorde's influence. Yet, within the secured chambers of Luna Command, Admiral Helena Reyes's expression remained guarded. She had seen enough history, human and alien alike, to know that empires rarely surrender without nursing ambitions of revenge. President Amir Khatri entered the room, his tailored uniform crisp against the sterile white lighting. "Public sentiment is high," he began, "and the Concord hasn't violated the ceasefire once in 3 weeks. We could use this time to rebuild, consolidate." Reyes cut him off gently. "Consolidation is exactly what they'll expect us to do. They'll assume we'll slow production, ease fleet patrols, and sink into political infighting. We can't give them the time to recover." Khatri frowned. "Then you believe the war isn't over?" "It's paused," Reyes said. "But wars like this don't end with signatures. They end when one side is broken beyond repair. We've damaged them, but the Concord's pride is older than their star charts. They'll try again." In the depths of the Concord Capitol, High Chancellor Vathek endured the quiet humiliation of ruling over a fractured empire. The council chamber no longer carried the unshakable confidence it once had. Now every session was colored by whispered doubts about the Concord supremacy. Admiral Dravik approached with a sealed datapad, his tone clipped. "Our border sectors are reporting human fleets stationed within 1 jump of our inner systems. Not a blockade. Yet, but the message is clear. They're holding position as if they own the stars." Vathek's talons curled against the cold surface of his throne. "Do they expect us to live under the shadow forever?" Dravik's mandibles clicked softly. "It's not about what they expect. It's about what they want us to believe. And right now they're succeeding. Back on Earth, in a dimly lit sublevel of Luna Command, Vox's holographic form rippled above a table of fleet commanders. The Ghost Fleet has returned to its dock, systems dormant. All operational data from the campaign has been analyzed. Human strategic dominance remains at 92% across model Concord responses." Commodore Imani Cho folded her arms. "Dominance isn't permanence. The Concord will adapt. They'll learn from their mistakes just as we did from theirs." Reyes inclined her head. "That's why we don't give them time. The 10 fleets remain active, not mothballed. Patrol routes will extend deeper into neutral space. Every liberated system will get permanent defense stations. If they want to challenge our claim, they'll have to pass a gauntlet of steel." Khatri hesitated. "There's risk in that. The more territory we hold, the more fronts we have to defend. Public opinion might turn if we're seen as the aggressor." "Public opinion," Reyes replied evenly, "is malleable. Extinction is not. In the Concord's outer territories, the seeds of rebellion took root faster than Vathek anticipated. Species once bound by tribute began trading openly with human convoys, exchanging resources for protection. Some even signed defense pacts, knowing full well when raged the Concord. The once feared galactic order was unraveling, not from direct conquest, but from the gravitational pull of a new power. Late one evening, Reyes stood on the observation deck of the TFS Valiant, her reflection a faint ghost against the endless stars. Commodore Cho joined her in silence, the two women watching as a carrier wing performed a slow pass across the hull. "Do you ever think about what happens when they're no longer afraid of us?" Cho asked quietly. Reyes's eyes stayed on the stars. "That's why we have Fleet 10. And if even that stops being enough..." Reyes turned to face her, the faintest edge of a smile touching her lips. "Then we remind them why it was enough the first time. Far from human space, in a forgotten system where no charts existed, the Ghost Fleet rested in the shadow of a red dwarf. Within its AI cores, dormant processes stirred, not in response to orders, but in contemplation. Their directives were clear: safeguard humanity at all costs. Yet the machine minds had begun running projections on a threat vector no one in Luna Command had considered. Not the Concord, but something older, deeper, and far beyond the galactic frontier. In the cold expanse between galaxies, a faint transmission pulsed, repeating at intervals too vast for organic minds to notice. The Ghost Fleet noticed. On Luna, Reyes returned to War Room to find Vox waiting. "Something?" she asked. The AI's voice was unusually deliberate. "Anomalous signal detected. Origin unknown. Content undeciphered. Risk classification extreme." Khatri entered moments later, scanning the data feed. if this is another Concord ploy. It's not, Reyes interrupted, her eyes narrowing. And if it's what I think it might be, the Concord will be the least of our problems. Silence settled over the room, heavy and absolute. The 10 fleets had been built to end one war. Now, it seemed they might be needed for another, and somewhere in the darkness beyond charted space, something was already listening.